You can't always wait for the perfect time. Sometimes you just have to dare to jump. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Athlete Podcast sponsored by Sports for Champions. Today I'm delighted to be joined by professional long jumper Alessandro Schenini. How are you today, Alessandro?
I'm very well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
You're more than welcome.
How are you?
I'm okay actually, yeah, not too bad. Excited to jump straight into it. So if you could start at the very beginning, where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Glasgow in Scotland and I still live there now.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Cool. Place after my own heart too. And then, would you say you came from a sporting family?
I'd say my mum was sporty during her school years. She plays a lot of tennis now. My dad not so much, but he enjoys watching the football.
Right, I see. And
Yeah.
then, were you involved in sport at an early age, or was it kind of?
Yeah, I was very active, very outdoors sort of child. Did all the sports I could do. Mainly team sports in my younger years. And then just progressed into long jump now.
And do you think you had like a sort of early talent for sport, or is it something that kind of progressed?
Definitely did not have an early talent for sport. Started off football, terrible. Played the team sports, was never the best in the team or anything, just kind of always there. And then as time went on, I've just got to a better standard now.
Right, I see.
Yeah.
And is it kind of early athletic days at school or anything like that kind of where you first realised, oh, actually, maybe team sports just wasn't the thing for me?
Yeah, I think I was always very competitive. Obviously, you have to be an elite athlete or whatever. So I think I was always, whenever we lost a game of rugby in school, I'd always be more annoyed than everyone else, trying to be better. So I think just looking back, it was pretty clear that team sports probably weren't, maybe not the one for me. Just with my ambition to be successful was more than anyone else's. Maybe an elite team sport might have been better, but didn't get that far.
That's interesting. So do you
Yeah.
think maybe what do you think it is about you that makes you so competitive?
I've got 3 sisters, so just 2 of them are very similar age to me, so just throughout growing up I was always trying to be better than them at everything. You can imagine being the only male in the house, especially when you're younger, you want to be taller than your sister, you want to be faster than your sisters and stuff, so maybe it just comes from that.
With your youngest, did you say?
No, I'm second child.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. That's interesting. And then do you remember the first time that you did compete in athletics and you sort of realised, oh, actually, maybe I do have a talent here?
Yeah, so with my school I was always kind of up there with like the best in the year, but so I thought that was good, but then you go to Scottish schools, which is it's a different ball game, and then you go to like the schools, UK schools, and that's a completely different ballgame. So each time I went to one of those, it was always a reminder that I was actually not that good, and eventually I started like winning them. So I think when I was able to win Scottish schools, I thought, I'm quite good.
How do you progress from, obviously, so it happens to all our athletes basically, you're the best in your school,
Yeah.
and then you go to regionals and you're like, oh, actually there's
Yeah.
another level here, and then you go to nationals and there's a whole other level again. What do you think changed in terms of you going there and probably being a little bit overawed by it at first through to actually winning?
I think naivety is a big thing maybe. I think I was just happy to be there. I didn't really think about what was going on, just wanted to win. That's all I wanted to do. So I didn't really think, oh, if I win this, I'm actually at a good level. It was more, I just want to win this.
Mm-hmm.
And as that progressed, so did my performances, I guess.
So at 15 you get picked up by Scotland.
Yeah.
How does that come about?
So in the winter, one of my friends got 2 days off school, so I thought, hold on, I want those 2 days off school in the summer. So I entered the Scottish Schools Championships. My PE teacher let me enter despite not having a performance to my name. And that was a multi-events championships, so it was 5 events, a pentathlon, and I came 3rd.
What are the events?
It was hurdles, long jump, shot put, 200 and 800, because I think it was under 16, slightly different than your usual multi-event. And from that they picked the top 4 to compete at the UK schools international against England, Ireland, Wales. And then they train you there was 4 training days in the build up to that competition where I quickly realised I wasn't very good and had no technical ability in anything and needed a coach. So luckily my first long jump coach was coaching at that, and he picked me up, and he was based in Glasgow, so we kind of went from there.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Is there anything really standing out as lacking in your technique, in your game at that point?
Everything. There was nothing. I didn't have a run up. I just showed up and ran. I just jumped, or I just threw. Like, it was all very raw. There was no technique really, and I think that showed at the competition. I came third last. So yeah, everything was.
To be fair though, having never really done it before,
I was just happy to be there.
It's not a bad effort.
Yeah.
Wow. So then you went straight from that. How old are you there? 15, 16?
Yeah.
And then you're looking to sort of. I mean, at that point, are you thinking that you could take this professional, or?
Absolutely not. I was just happy. I thought that was the end. Getting a Scotland kit, I was just very happy to get a Scotland kit. So I think the following year I got a couple more Scotland kits. Went to the UK School Games, and I medalled at that. So at that point I thought, oh, maybe I could get a British medal next year and see where that goes. But never was I thinking, oh, I could get to the Olympics or something until maybe 2000. When I was 17, I topped the under 17 rankings in the UK. So maybe at that point I thought, oh, I could potentially take this further, but still never really. I still don't think I can be a professional elite long jumper, you know.
Despite being exactly that.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. Obviously, I mean, we speak to loads of different athletes. I think like being humble is one thing, but obviously having self-belief. Yeah. What do you think changed in terms of, was it just the fact that you'd learned the proper technique and spent a couple of years with a coach, or did your body develop? What was the main thing?
So my first coach when I was younger, he was really good at giving you confidence. Like on the day, you knew he was the best coach there, and you knew being with the best coach, you're going to be the best athlete. Like I knew I wasn't wasting his time. So I think in terms of like Scotland and arguably like age group UK wise, he was very good for getting me confidence. And then COVID happened. I split ways with him, just the way things happened. And over like the next 2 years of COVID, I didn't compete, so I kind of lost maybe my confidence. I don't know, I lost something. And then the next year, it took a while to get back in the swing of things. Kind of found myself struggling to think of the bigger picture. So I was just winning in Scotland, but that wasn't going to get me anywhere because I was better than that standard, and I wanted to be better than that standard. So then I spoke to a sports psychologist after been speaking to one over the last year or so, and they've really helped me think like how to think when I'm going to compete, how am I going to compete, how am I going to be motivated to compete, what's the whole bigger picture, but then also not to think that sport is everything. There's other things to sport. Your life gets in the way and stuff. So speaking to a sports psychologist really helps. I think that really is what helped me jump to 8 meters. I think once I really put in the hours with the sports psychologist, you can see that I then jumped 8 meters pretty soon after.
Wow.
So I'd say that psychology and stuff is a big thing.
8 meters is obviously quite a big landmark in long jump.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's ever jumped 9 meters, have they?
Nah, the world record's 8.95.
Yeah, so just shy of that. How did that feel, jumping 8 for the first time in competition? It
was a dream come true. I think I'd known I could do it for about a year, so I was getting frustrated with myself that I hadn't done it. I'd actually bet a couple of my training partners £10 that I'd do it and stuff, so this was the last competition. It was to lose my tenner basically,
right?
So I think to bet with my close friends that I was going to do it shows that I knew I could do it, but it was more just a massive relief. My celebrations when it happened were a bit wild, not pretty laid back usually, so I ran up into the stand to hug my family and my girlfriend and stuff, so it's all a bit extra, but it's a big milestone. I think now I can do it.
Yeah, I feel like that's I presume that's going to sort of be like the platform then for the rest of your career now. How old are you now?
23.
23. So
Yeah.
what age do long jumpers normally go for?
I think a peak long jumper is usually, I've read that they peak in 29, 30.
Yeah, so it's still got a long time to sort of keep pushing that number up.
I hope so.
And then I know you were sort of well into your preparations for the Commonwealth Games, and you were unfortunately injured. Can you tell us a bit about that experience and how you kind of bounced back from that?
So in 2021 I jumped 776, which was 9 centimetres short of the Commonwealth Games standard for Scotland. So in 2022 I thought, 9 centimetres, I'll get that, no problem. I'll be at the Commonwealth Games. It was in the diary basically. Then the indoor season happened, and just in February I had pains in my foot, pains in my ankle, went to physio. They said it was all stress. Took a month for that not to go away, so we got a scan showed a bone spur, which is an extra bit of growth in the foot, which then cut into the tendons or poked at the tendons, and that caused the pain. So by that point it was May, and the athletic season starts in May. So I'd missed all the training from March and April to set you up for the outdoor season. I got an injection through the doctor to tide me over till my operation at the end of August, just to have one last chance at going for the Commonwealth Games standard. I think the selection had to be done by June 15th or something, and it was May, so I had like 5 comps.
Right.
And I thought, why not go for it? I want to go.
Might as well, yeah.
Yeah. Looking back, would I have done it differently? Not sure. Because I probably would have kicked myself not going for it, because I did think I could get it, but I was nowhere near. I think I was jumping 740s and I needed to jump 780s, 790s. So that was tough mentally, and I think that really does shatter your confidence, especially when you think and you know that other people think you should be there as well. So
does it not help to think, well, obviously I've missed a month's training, I've got an injury, I'm running with an injection. I mean, how does that even feel? Does it feel numb in that area? Do you feel like you can get the same power down?
The actual injection was one of the worst things I've ever had. I had to lie down because I was like on the verge of passing out.
Right. Yeah.
He just stuck a needle in my foot, wiggled about, and I thought couldn't look. It was so gross. It was probably worse than the operation.
Right.
And then 5 or 6 days later, my foot felt like really heavy and numb because there was extra fluid and stuff in it for like 5 or 6 days, and then it just kind of passed and you actually couldn't feel it.
Right. Okay. That's cool.
So it was fine, and up until the operation I still couldn't feel it at all. So the injection, apart from the 5 or 6 days and the actual injection, it was okay. Yeah.
So coming back from that, obviously the disappointment, how do you kind of recalibrate, and then do you just get back into the gym, kind of put it to one side, or do you speak to your sports psychologist?
So when I missed the standard, I went to British Champs a couple of weeks after, and I was still just going to go with the season. And then I had plantar fasciitis in my foot, so I kind of just, at that point I was so done with it, I gave up. Spent a month, had a month of my operation, so just hung out with my friends and did like a normal 21-year-old would do. Probably not ideal for sport, but I think I needed it for like a reset, mental reset, physical reset, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Just mucked about with my friends for a month, and then had my operation, and from there it was get back to the grind. I think the operation was a good way of turning things around, new focus, was getting back to full fitness, and then from there it was getting back into competition ready.
What does a day's training look like?
So it can vary. I do a double day twice a week, that consists of gym in the morning and then track at night, where I would run usually, or on a Monday I do some technical work in the pit, and then on the single days just train in the evening. My coach is a school teacher, so we have to work around his school day. So I do my sprint work and stuff with the rest of my group just in the evening. It usually takes about 2.5-3 hours. and then recover during the day.
We spoke earlier and you told me that you don't actually perform the full run up and jump in training. It's interesting because I'd have thought putting it together on the actual day seems like a risk, but obviously there's a higher risk of injury if you're training like that constantly. Do you have to do any sort of like visualization to put it all together in your head of how the run goes, how you transition from the run into the jump, etc.?
I think I've been doing it for what feels like ages now, so long that I think I know it kind of doesn't leave you. So for the first 3 months of training in the winter, I won't touch the sandpit, and then I'll just jump back into like an 8 stride approach. My normal run up's usually 20 strides, so an 8 stride's pretty short, less than half a run up, and that always feels like a bit wrong, a bit you don't know what you're doing. But then after a couple, it's like riding a bike, you get back into it. So I think once you do all the technical work in the air off boxes to give you extra height and more air time, and then you do your run up practice where you repeat your 20 stride run up and make sure it's on the board every single time, it kind of all just pieces together. But it does help to visualize it, and I've got my own personal cues like counting my strides, where I am on the board and stuff like that. You kind of almost don't think about it, you just do it. If you're distracting yourself with counting and stuff like that, it kind of, all your training, it just comes naturally.
I think muscle memory. And does each athlete use 20 strides as a run up?
No, it all varies. A lot of people, you can skip into it, so they maybe do like 14 strides of pure running, but then I don't. I do a rolling start, so don't skip into it, so do 20 strides, and then used to only do 18, and a lot of people go further back. It just depends on where your fastest speed is at the board.
Right, I see. I know you spoke earlier, you said that sprinting is something that you are trying to improve. How important is that run up to the actual jump itself, and how important is kind of controlling your body while you're in the air?
So I think me and my coach go off the approach that the run up's the most important part. If you can't run, what's the point in jumping? If you can't do the first part, why bother with the second part? So we put a lot of work into my running technique. My posture used to be all over the place. My arms used to be, I ran like a speed skater, is how we described it. So we changed that, and then with that you get a bit more speed, and then with more speed it's harder to control taking off, so you have to get used to all that. And then your takeoff, that's where you make the marginal gains, but the main gains we think are from the run up and getting that accurate. And if you can be at full speed at takeoff, then you will jump far regardless of the technique in the air.
Yeah, that makes sense.
In theory.
Yeah.
We hope.
Yeah.
That's what we're going for.
We'll see.
Yeah.
And then in terms of nutrition, is that something that you take a lot of care over?
Yeah, it's actually a big thing for me. My long-term girlfriend is a performance nutritionist, sports nutritionist. She works for Man U.
That's ideal.
So she took that role 2 years ago maybe, and she's been helping me ever since. So it's really good, and she's really helpful and not too strict, which I think is another thing, because I think if you don't treat yourself once a week maybe, you're just going to get sick of it. I personally can't stick to it for 100% for a full week of not eating. I need like one cheat meal or whatever you want to call it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then in terms of funding, I know that it's something that's difficult in Sport Scotland and in athletics in general. Can you tell me a little bit about how that works, and perhaps how Sports for Champions can help out with it?
So I'm part of the Institute of Sport in Scotland. They help with my medical costs or physio costs, but there is no actual funding. I work another job at the moment, so to do Sports for Champions would be beneficial for me, because I could drop a shift or here and there and have more flexibility in my job, because that sometimes can get in the way of training. And it would be during the school day as well, which really helps with the way I'm set up with my coach. So having just that extra bit of money and the extra bit of time to train, get to training, cover costs, aid your recovery, eat better food because you can afford better food, so things like that, and buy the newest up-to-date spikes or the newest up-to-date trainers. It really helps.
Of course. Brilliant. In terms of the future, what are your main aims and goals over the next sort of few years?
Yeah, so my aims for 2024, I'd love to be able to go to Olympics. I'd love to be able to go to the European Champs. I think I already have the standard. I think the standard is bang on 8 metres, and I've jumped bang on 8 metres. So
perfect.
Maybe need to improve a bit, but I'd love to get a senior GB vest is my main priority. I don't have one yet. Just the juniors. Love to be able to call myself an Olympian, and then you just kind of take it from there. If this is a good year, then my aims for the next couple of years will change. For example, if I was to go to the Olympics this year, instead of aiming for the Olympics next year, I'd be aiming for an Olympic medal. So things like that, it just kind of depends on the year. Yeah.
If you were to give a piece of advice for somebody perhaps thinking of starting a career in sport, or maybe even long jump specifically, what would you give them?
If you're a young child, I would just try and do every sport until the sport finds you. I didn't pick long jump. It kind of just became my thing because it was what I was best at. I didn't say I wanted to be a long jumper. So just continue doing every sport you can, and you work hard. Like, it's hard, especially maybe in Scotland or in Glasgow, when all your friends are going out getting drunk every weekend. You can't do that, but I think my memories are better than that because I've been to some great places, and you wouldn't do these things if it wasn't for what the sport I do. So you get unique life experiences that you need to think about sacrificing other things for, and don't be afraid to do that. It's worth it, 100%.
Definitely. Well, I think that's a great note to end it on. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
No, you're more than welcome, and thank you to everyone joining us at home. We'll see you next time. Cheers.